Welcome back to the Early Line, live right here on this Monday morning to start off a new week on the SportsGrid Network. He is Donnie, I am Ben. A big weekend around the National Football League. It was Combine weekend in Indianapolis. We saw the prospects looking to take that leap to the next level, working out in Indianapolis. But outside of what we saw inside Lucas Oil Stadium, a big weekend of NFL headlines as well. Saturday afternoon, a deal we expected at a certain point this offseason did come through. The San Francisco 49ers, who said they were going to honor the permission to trade Deebo Samuel, his time in San Francisco coming to a close, made quick work, sending Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders in exchange for just a fifth-rounder in return to the Bay. Deebo Samuel, now a member of the Commanders, DRS.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. Let's start here at this point because, when I saw that tweet goes down, and many people that just play Madden or understand names like, wait a second, you just got Deebo Samuel for a fifth-round pick. What a steal. They're cooking in Washington. 2 to 3 years ago, I would absolutely agree. But let's understand what Deebo Samuel is at this point in his career. Playing with the best play caller, most innovative play caller in the sport. You saw a couple years ago, 77 catches, 1,400 yards, also had 365 yards rushing on the ground. That was the pinnacle that it got. Sign him to a big deal, and what has he turned out to be? Looks like he can't catch, not as explosive, easier to tackle, and injured all the time. We're not saying, I'm not saying, at an age 30 season, he can't get in shape, get motivated, and actually help the Washington football team. But you're not getting the Deebo Samuel of a couple years ago. You're getting the Deebo Samuel of what we saw last year. And also understand this. This is a San Francisco 49ers team that feels they're still in the window to win a Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are on the trade block, along with we're trying to restructure, get a new contract, I should say, for our young quarterback in Brock Purdy. So buyer beware at this point. The Niners know what they're doing, and Deebo Samuel looked absolutely disinterested last year, and his play actually proved it. Now, also, you see the pictures in the offseason where he's wearing the Eagles jersey. I'm like, man, has the guy even worked out in months at this point? We get all that. At the top of his game, Deebo is one of the best weapons in football. He hasn't been that for quite some time now.
DRS, after his 2021 campaign, his third in the National Football League, he was an AP All-Pro first team. He signed a large contract extension to remain in San Francisco. Now it's not nearly as large, but he still owed over $21 million entering 2025. The last 3 years has not been great for Deebo Samuel, at least based on that lone Pro Bowl season and as a first-team All-Pro. In this year specifically, DRS, with everybody in San Francisco dealing with a litany of injury issues, Deebo Samuel largely did not. Played in 15 games, started 15 games. When Brandon Ayuk was out, when Christian McCaffrey was out, when George Kittle was dealing with nagging injuries. Heck, even when Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall were not in the fold, Deebo Samuel was largely there. And you would expect, with the bright offensive play caller that is Kyle Shanahan, and the versatile weapon that Deebo Samuel can be offensively, if there was any guy that could have stepped up in that stage when the Niners needed it most, it would have been Deebo Samuel. And largely based on what that expectation was, he certainly did not live up to it. Now, he doesn't have to go to Washington and be the guy. It's Terry McLaurin. Heck, he might not even be that number 2 wide receiver. It could be De'Ami Brown and Adam Peters, who is the GM of this Commanders franchise, a former front office exec in San Francisco, might understand everything that Deebo Samuel can present in not having to be that number 1 target for Jaden Daniels. It's a good move for the Commanders, and it did not cost them much, just a 5th-round selection. But expecting Deebo Samuel to be that Pro Bowl performer, to be a first-team All-Pro, as you alluded to, DRS, those days seem as though they might be in the rear view.
Yeah, and also understand this. The salary cap is going up, so Deebo does make a lot of money, but Washington does have a lot of money to play with. And if you're looking for an upgrade in the offense, if he can get back to somewhat what he was a few years ago, it's a positive move, a veteran guy, and sometimes you just need a change of scenery to reinvigorate yourself. But it's just understanding the facts of when you just see the headlines, like, oh my goodness, Deebo for a 5th rounder. A lot of stuff plays into that. And as you pointed out, Deebo's going to make over $20 million, and he's probably looking for a new deal based off his last couple years. Who knows how much that new deal is actually going to be, but agreed upon here. I'm interested to see what the San Francisco 49ers rest of their offseason actually looks like because, you sign Deebo, you sign Ayuk, and it could be where both of those guys are out of town. That's not a very good business model at this point to put up, but we'll find out what they do. But for Washington, a team on the come up right now, had a very good season last year, making it to the NFC Championship game. That's an upgrade in their wide receiving core, and they'll take that.
No doubt about it. And you still have Cliff Kingsbury there as the offensive coordinator as well. He can design a scheme that features Deebo Samuel where he needs to be. I think it's a good move for Washington. Is it a move that makes the Commanders more of a legitimate threat around the NFC? Probably not. For San Francisco, DRS, on the other side of this coin, it felt like the changing of an era. That Deebo Samuel requested that permission to seek a trade. San Francisco honors that request, gets a deal done by the end of Combine weekend early on this offseason. Of course, the main focus in San Fran this offseason is paying Brock Purdy. Not a matter of if, more so when. And really the main question is how much. That would be priority number one. But George Kittle could need a new deal. Christian McCaffrey was signed last offseason. Same with Nick Bosa. They should be fine other areas. But the 49ers at a 12-1 price to win the Super Bowl. Sixth best price overall, third best out of the NFC, only behind the Eagles and the Lions. That expectation, the odds optimism, Donnie, is back for the 49ers entering 2025.
It is, and it's surprising because this is one of those years where so much is up in the air. Like Deebo's gone. That was one of those cornerstone players of the franchise for the past 5 years. Brandon Ayuk's coming back from a torn ACL, who they said that they might even be willing to move coming up over the next couple months. You take a look at Christian McCaffrey. Is he ever going to get back to any semblance of the player he was for the 49ers? And Brock Purdy, there's no guarantees that he will be the quarterback for the 49ers next year. So a lot of moving parts, but a lot of faith from the FanDuel Sportsbook and odds makers saying, you know what? Good organization. They'll figure it out. We'll have a solid team by the time we get to September.
Of course, injuries the main story in San Francisco. Still probably a down year, even with those significant injuries. 6-11, the overall record. They enter 2024 rather, a co-favorite alongside KC to win a Lombardi Trophy. The Niners, prior to this year, had made it to 4 of the last 5 NFC Championship games with 2 Super Bowl bids and 2 Super Bowl losses to Kansas City. Elsewhere on the West Coast, we'll break it down next. Last week during Combine Week in the National Football League, basically every day, the main story was not a Combine prospect working out or an interview out of Indianapolis. It was everybody being together around the NFL, and the main topic of conversation, it seemed, was Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Donnie and I were breaking down this entire scenario for the last 2 weeks. Last week, a daily update on the speculation that started to feel like a rumor and then really had some legs in a disconnect, whether monetary or personal relationships between the Rams front office, Stafford, and his representation. Then the Giants and the Raiders got in the fold, seemingly a front runner to trade for Matthew Stafford at the age of 37, about to embark on year number 17 around the NFL. And the final update that Donnie and I brought you on Friday morning was that Matthew Stafford was set to meet with the Rams inside the facility to come to some terms of agreement, either that he would stay in LA, sign a new deal, or be like, all right, we're looking for that trade partner at this moment. And Donnie, by the time we got to Friday, it seemed more likely that Matthew Stafford would be playing somewhere else in 2025 than Los Angeles. And after all of that, an agreement has been reached by LA and Matthew Stafford. He will remain with the Rams in 2025, which always seemed to be the thing that made the most sense, was the smartest move for all parties involved. So the Rams, a divisional round playoff team a year ago, could run it back with a promising young club.
Yeah, in the NFL, I don't know, does the NFL ever, dip into waters and say we're going to award the Nobel Peace Prize to one of our players here? You say, well, why would you say that?
I think
Matthew Stafford in one day, Ben, saved 3 franchises in one day. Nobody's ever done that in the history of the NFL, because not only was it stupid for him to leave Los Angeles, who knows where they would have ended quarterback, and automatically, in my book, would not have been a playoff contender next year, no matter who they rookie quarterback Sam Darnold, downgrade right there, and then taking a look at maybe the 2 stupidest franchises in professional sports right now, the Giants and the Raiders. So Stafford, Saved LA. Made sure they're a Super Bowl contender next year. Saved the New York Giants fans from being obliterated for the next 5 years with no quarterback in the future. And the same exact thing for the Las Vegas Raiders. So for me and my money, who knows what it's going to turn out to be? Is it going to be 2 years, 3 years, something extended? It's clear Matthew Stafford wanted to be paid. They played chicken, and Matthew Stafford won. But on one day, one player saved 3 franchises. I've never seen that before in my life.
The actual terms of the contract have not come out just yet, what exactly it is. Of course, we had reports that Matthew Stafford was seeking $50 million at least on annual average value, making $40 at this current moment in Los Angeles, age of 37, year number 17 ahead in the National Football League. The league year technically starts in 9 days, a week from Wednesday. But the tampering period, if you will, or the non-tampering period where you can contact free agents starts on Monday, a week from right now. So when the deal sheet is signed, I'm sure we will learn what that value is. Obviously, a raise is coming for Matthew Stafford. But Donnie, to your point, a Nobel Peace Prize as well. It made no sense for the Giants or the Raiders to give up what seemed to be a king's ransom and then a lot of money for a 37-year-old quarterback, at best, probably has 2 more good years in the National Football League. It made no sense for the Rams to say, we're comfortable with Jimmy G, with Jimmy Garoppolo as our starter. We know we can be a playoff team once again. It made no sense for Matthew Stafford at the tail end of his NFL career to not compete for a Lombardi trophy where the Rams were his best situation to do so. I am happy that common sense prevailed for every party involved. And Donnie, one of the reasons it felt as though the Rams might then not end up as Matthew Stafford's team in 2025, their Super Bowl price entering Friday was 32-1, moved back by $10 to 42-1. Now Matthew Stafford is happy in Los Angeles, a 31-1 price once again for LA.
Exactly. And again, the moral of the story, horrible franchises with horrible players on their team should not be going out getting a 17-year veteran as their quote-unquote future quarterback. Tank and find your future quarterback when he's 21 years old, and if he's good, you got him for the next 15 years. Matthew Stafford to the Raiders and the Giants never made any sense. I can't even believe we had conversation topics on this for 2 weeks because they never made any sense. Common sense prevailed, and it's brilliant.
Stafford delivered last year. The numbers don't look all that gaudy, but still was the guy to lead them and provide the toughest test to the eventual Super Bowl champs in Philadelphia. So what do the Giants and Raiders do now? Find out now. So Matthew Stafford is staying in Los Angeles with the Rams entering 2025. What does that mean for the 2 teams that seem to be his biggest suitors and most interested? The New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Giants hold the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Raiders hold the 6th overall selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. Both teams winning games in the final 3 weeks of the regular season that probably cost them the opportunity to draft 1st overall. So what are the G-men going to do? Let's start in New York. This report from ESPN's Adam Schefter on Friday afternoon, with Matthew Stafford remaining with the Rams. The New York Giants are investigating all veteran QB options, including Aaron Rodgers, per sources. Now, Rodgers doesn't live in New York, although he does, I'm sure, have a very comfortable situation whenever he comes back to the East Coast. But it would not be a very far trip from what he has experienced the last 2 years to head to the New York Giants. Donnie, the caption of that graphic that we had there was really exclamation point and question mark tied in. Yeah. I think that is the natural follow-up. Why would the Giants explore the option of having Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback in 2025?
Oh, it's simple. It's real simple. You know what the simplistic part of this is? Their general manager and their head coach are in self-preservation mode, not what's best for the franchise. And that is the most dangerous territory you can be in. This is why it was so refreshing on the opposite side of the building, let's just say with the New York Jets going, you know what? I probably could win a couple more games with Aaron Rodgers. And if we keep Devontae Adams, that'll help him out. And why don't we do that? Because I don't want to get off on the wrong foot and win 5 games in my first year and then everybody get mad at me. No, they're going like, no. If we win 5 games next year, that means we're on the upswing and we're going to build this roster here from an aging talent perspective to a young, fierce, and hungry component. When the New York Giants are saying, okay, let me just get a Band-Aid here at the quarterback position. When I have one decent left tackle, everybody else is terrible on my offensive line. I have one really good wide receiver, nobody else worth any consequence. I have no quarterback on my roster right now who's even young, who I could think could be a starter, and I have a half of a running back in Tyrone Tracy. So let's go out and get a veteran quarterback that's going to make this better. No, it's going to be a disaster. So when we take a look at some things where, like, the Giants, remember last year they brought out the most horrendous uniforms you've ever seen, we all laughed at, and then had an atrocious season? The Giants should come out with a brand new uniform this year that has a picture of a tank on the side of their helmet here, because that's what the Giants should be doing until they find their franchise quarterback. It's simple. Giants this year, fans, understand this. Join in on the process. Tank completely. Blow out the general manager, the head coach, and start fresh. The Jets already have one leg up on the New York Giants here heading into the next season.
It is why, DRS, when I was told by certain Giants fans that don't worry, that we beat Indianapolis as a touchdown underdog at home to squander the opportunity to pick first overall. We are going to draft in the top 3. We'll be number 1. We'll tank. We'll get Arch Manning. Our future is bright with a new GM and a new head coach after Daboll and Shane are fired in this offseason. I said you can't always guarantee that, and what you have done in 2024, which was under your control, is laughable. Because by all indications, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane understand they have one more year. And if it looks like 2024, when they only picked up 3 wins, and it looks like 2025 is expected to be at a 200-1 number, tied for the longest price around the NFL to win a Lombardi Trophy, Brian Daboll knows he's about to be an offensive assistant somewhere, and Joe Shane understands he's working as a scout, having to go to college football stadiums each and every Saturday to find a new gig. That's why none of this makes sense. However, here's what I would say. The acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, does not get you an additional win or an additional 2 wins. It doesn't even make you a contender or highlight the best of what Malik Neighbors can do. Now, the numbers this past year with the New York Jets, not overly terrible, but we watched Aaron Rodgers. We know what he was. We know what he is. Donnie, to me, if the Giants sign Aaron Rodgers, the win total remains the exact same, which is probably 4.5, 5.5 entering 2025.
And the best part about that, too, is they sign him behind an aging quarterback behind that terrible offensive line. But you know what happens? He probably goes out and makes them get Devontae Adams, which then alienates Neighbors, just like last year you did with Garrett Wilson on the outside. Just say no at this point to aging quarterbacks. What's like, if you honestly, and speaking directly to Giants fans, like, winning Super Bowls is what it's supposed to be about. Does any fan care, like, oh, please just get me Aaron Rodgers so I can watch a 7-win football team? Or you're like, you know what? You know what's even more fun sometimes? Building all the way through, understanding your organization has a foundation that can build on over the next 5 to 6 years, and you can watch winning, enjoyable football. Band-Aids never work in the NFL, particularly when your roster is so talent depleted like the Giants are. And also, Ben, you brought up a good point here. Like, oh, it's no big deal that the Giants beat the Indianapolis Colts. We can always trade up and get a quarterback. So now you're telling me you're giving up a first-round draft pick just to get your quarterback and this year or next year's first-round pick? That makes no sense at all. When if you were a smart franchise, and I take this back, too, because sometimes I just look from an Eagles perspective. Do you remember when everybody got upset when they tanked the Washington game, the final game of the season during the COVID year? You know what that got them? Devontae Smith, because they knew winning that football game meant absolutely nothing, and you're just hurting yourself. The general manager, it's up to him to tank a football game. But you know what he did? He's like, hey, you know what? I can sell this at idiot owner Mara right now and say, boy, did you see us win that football game? I can do this again next year. And he bought it hook, line, and sinker. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the issue as well with retaining Brian Daboll and Joe Shane as your top 2 guys, head coach and general manager. They're in limbo. They're sitting ducks. If it doesn't work out as is expected, all right, goodbye. We're going to start fresh in 2025 or in 2026, which makes sense. But this year in 2025 is this weird limbo area where Shane and Daboll are trying to win games, but the organization as a whole understands that's probably not going to work, so you send them away. None of it makes sense in New York. Neither does the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, even if you got him cheap, even if Aaron Rodgers was okay. Not the MVP level Aaron Rodgers, maybe not nearly as bad as we had seen. Again, he wasn't terrible this year in 2024, but you look at the performances. Never once did you trust Aaron Rodgers on the football field with an opportunity to lead a game-winning drive that he would do just that. But that's the issue. Because this guy has been in the NFL for 2 decades, and we know how great he once was, we still think in the back of our minds, maybe, just maybe, look at how he still zips it out there with the flick of the wrist. If the Giants are a 5-win football team with Aaron Rodgers, we will still laugh at them. If the Giants are a 5-win football team with insert X veteran, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock on retention, heck, bringing Daniel Jones back. If they're a 5-win football team with whatever veteran quarterback, we'll say good for the New York Giants. We hope they put themselves in a position to draft and have a brighter future. But Aaron Rodgers, despite the fact he probably doesn't lift the expectation for actual successful football, will always have that attention and notoriety around him.
You're right, and that's a great thought process to bring up, by the way. Daniel Jones is the perfect quarterback for the New York Giants next year. He's great in the locker room. He's not going to get anybody upset. He's not going to backstab anybody. He's going to lose a ton of football games, and you will improve your draft position. Giants, don't put a Band-Aid on this season. Just let it go. Tank it as many talented draft picks as you can get and hopefully turn them into superstar football players here. That's the way to do it. Not Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, or a quarterback that's going to win you 1 or 2 extra football games. That's not the goal next year. Your goal actually is to go 0-17 to get a really good quarterback that you don't have to trade up for in the next draft.
So here's also the interesting component of this all. Combine weekend in Indianapolis is done. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders did not throw, but they still by far and away remain the top 2 quarterbacks expected to go at the end of April. We have seen the odds. The Titans were a hefty favorite to make that first overall pick, but there is some scuttlebutt in speculation leaving this weekend in Indy. The Giants are aggressively pursuing moving up the draft board. We will talk about those odds at the end of this opening hour. But we talked the G-Men. Now it's time for the Raiders. What are they going to do with QB? Plan B or perhaps C or D for the New York Giants might be investigating the availability of Aaron Rodgers to bring him back to New York. But on the other side of things, Plan B for the Las Vegas Raiders. What exactly is it after Matthew Stafford remains in Los Angeles? Raiders, new GM and John Spytek, new minority ownership with Tom Brady, and of course the veteran head coach in Pete Carroll. Why should I tell you? The graphic is right there. The Raiders are investigating a variety of veteran QB options, including Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and maybe, just maybe, Sam Darnold. Donnie, you have enjoyed, I guess you could say, the hire of Pete Carroll, at least in the idea that he can steady the ship in Las Vegas. So if that is the theme, perhaps, for the Raiders entering 2025, to be more of a stable organization, what is the best option for Plan B for the Raiders?
You know, here's the shame of it all. Tom Brady might be the biggest winner in professional sports history, and he's so competitive, we know that. Look at how long he played, and in crunch time, there was no better positional player in the history of sport, including Michael Jordan, than Tom Brady. And that's what I love about the guy. But the fact that he's now the de facto owner/GM of the Raiders upsets me just a little bit because I know how competitive that he wants to be and wants to put a winner on the field and doesn't matter how he does it. When sometimes, Ben, I say, make me commissioner of the league, make me general managers and owners of some of these football teams. And I say, Tom, you're going to get everything you wished for. Yeah. You're still in your 40s. You can be around here for 30 or 40 years. Let's build it the right way and dominate year after year after year. So he goes out and gets Pete Carroll because he knows that's a guy that's been around championships in college football and professional football. He's always been a player's coach. They're going to enjoy playing for him. You're going to get the best out of your football team. But that doesn't mean we want to extend to say, you know what? We probably should win about 5 games this year, maybe 4 games. Let's see if we can win 8 or 9 and maybe challenge for a wild card spot. That's not what we should do. So when I saw that graphic on the screen and it's explaining to us which quarterback they're going after, They were trying to swing for the fences and hit a home run with Matthew Stafford. But for me, Justin Fields would be the perfect quarterback. Not going to cost you a lot of money. Russell Wilson is basically out of gas, but he's been with Pete before. He's going to be a professional on and off the football field just to get that franchise started in the right direction. You don't need a Matthew Stafford. You don't need a Sam Darnold. Your goal is not to win 6 or 7 games here. Your goal is to say, you know what? Let me find out who our football players of the future are. Let's stack draft picks together. Let's eventually find our superstar young quarterback that we can be rock stars in Vegas for the next decade and possibly win Super Bowls here in Las Vegas. And again, it's not against Tom Brady. He's so competitive that I think it's going to hurt the franchise in the short term here. Just be bad for a couple more years. You got to wait out Patrick Mahomes and Herbert and now Bo Nix as a rookie. 3 teams in your division have their long-term solutions at quarterback, and you don't. You got to find that guy, not a Band-Aid.
The Raiders have, in the last 22 years, only made the playoffs twice. And those were the 2 seasons the Raiders had an above 500 record. We don't really talk about Las Vegas in the perennial drought that we make fun of the New York Jets for, or other bad teams that we give them a lot of flack. The Las Vegas Raiders, whether it was Oakland or now in Sin City, under the Davis family, has not seen a ton of success in the last 2+ decades. So to Donnie's idea, although I'm a little bit skeptical it's going to work because the NFL is very different than college football, where you can have a veteran coach in there to pick his his successor and then kind of lay the groundwork of an organization. Things in the NFL often work very differently. When you go from one regime to the next, it's obviously cleaning house. It's a complete change of culture, even from one that was previously established. But Pete Carroll does deserve the benefit of the doubt, at least to make things a little bit more stable than perhaps they have been for the last 20+ seasons. So Donnie, to me, although we know his ceiling is not the man that could cook in the Pacific Northwest, the partnership between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, if the personal relationships have not been frayed nearly as much as maybe some of the reports from Russ's time coming to a close with the Seahawks, that would make some sense. I'm not sure you need to pay Sam Darnold, although, as we will show you, $96 million of cap space for Las Vegas this offseason, second most in the NFL, only behind the Patriots, who have $127 million of available cap room. So they do have money to spend. But as Donnie has said, just because John Spytek has the money does not mean it should be divulged all this offseason.
No, it shouldn't. You should be racking that away for a rainy day when there's actually legitimate free agents there that you can get and not extremely overpay for. Now, granted, they have so much money, they can overpay for a couple positions, but what are you getting here? They are so talented players. They have a wonderful young tight end who, when it's all said and done, might end up in Canton. Still early for that, but Bowers is sensational. Myers is an okay wide receiver. They have nothing at tailback or at the quarterback position, and their secondary and linebackers might be the worst by a wide margin in football. There's so many areas they need to get to, which includes just build it young. Make sure you have enough talent here and draft picks so when you do have lightning to strike with all that money in the bank, you can go out and make those decisions here. Aging quarterback is not the decision you need to make. You need to be bad enough to be able to draft your quarterback of the future. And once you get him, that's when you start to surround them with as much talent as you can possibly get.
I do think there is going to be movement at the top of the 2025 NFL draft. I do believe there is going to be some posturing. I do believe there are going to be some deals. I wonder if that all means that somehow, some way, either the Raiders moving up ever so slightly or even remaining at 6th overall, that Shedeur Sanders falls into their lap. It would seem to be that matrimony that you would want. Brady knows the Sanders family. Brady has mentored Shedeur Sanders many a time. Of course, we know that Dion and his son would love to play in Las Vegas as opposed to places like Tennessee or Cleveland. Just something about where things stand right now, Donnie. Almost like Shedeur Sanders' stock has fallen just a little bit, that maybe he is not just a guaranteed 2nd overall pick behind Cam Ward, who's going 1st overall, that I do somehow, some way believe Las Vegas is going to try, at least attempt, to position itself to get Shedeur Sanders.
They should. And, it's up to the general manager and also Tom Brady to get down every single avenue to see what's best for the franchise here. I didn't think it was going to be Matthew Stafford, but I will never, ever be disappointed that if you're in the draft and you feel like you have your guy, go out and get that guy and jumpstart your franchise. If he's not there, don't double down and take a veteran quarterback to get an extra win. If you don't get your guy this year, there'll be another guy next year. Just keep tanking until you can get that guy.
So let's talk those QBs in the top of the draft next.
Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. But for me, there was never a doubt coming out. Shedeur Sanders is a very talented quarterback and deservingly so should go high in the draft. But Cam Ward, to me, has always been the better quarterback overall. And it's not like, what do you fit into? Because Colorado didn't have a running game. Their offensive line wasn't very good. But, Shedeur is really schooled. His father was an NFL player, reading defenses, making big plays, being in the moment, understanding no matter what stage he gets on, the lights are not going to be too bright for him. He was born right into that, which is a big point of conference. If it's like, hey, Carson Wentz, who came from, the Dakotas all the way over to Philadelphia, how does he fit into the big city? You don't get that with Shedeur. He goes to New York City right away. He's comfortable and he's ready to live in the limelight no matter which team he goes to. But at the same time, Cam Ward, effortless in the pocket, can make every single throw, played in an up-tempo offense, just absolutely looks the part. And if you watch him in big moments, remember when they opened up the season last year against the Florida Gators? I needed 3 pass attempts and 3 pocket, appearances here from me. Like, you know what? This kid looks like nothing can absolutely get to him. I'm excited for Cam Ward and also agree, minus 200, he should be the first quarterback taken and first overall player taken in the draft.
And I think he will be, right? Not just the first QB out there, but the question is, DRS, who is the person, who is the team making that first overall pick? Is it the Tennessee Titans, who currently hold that first overall selection? We would assume with the Titans in desperate need of a quarterback and under a new GM in Mike Borgonzi, with an offensive-minded head coach in Brian Callahan entering his second year in Nashville, it would be a match made in heaven. And yet, a lot of conversation around Tennessee. Borgonzi himself saying they would be open to fielding phone calls. They have already received a couple of phone calls about that first overall pick, and then some reports about the New York Giants trying to make a move up the board to get their quarterback of the future. As we entered Combine Week, the Titans were a minus 360 favorite to make that number 1 overall pick. Now, minus 170. Still minus money, still a hefty odds-on favorite, but not nearly what it was just about a week ago. It is smokescreen season. It is lying season. It is posturing season. You take everything you read and hear with a grain of salt. Ultimately, Donnie, who makes that first overall pick come the end of April in just under 2 months?
I still think it's going to be the Tennessee Titans because you have the number 1 overall pick with a legitimate quarterback on the board from a quarterback-needy team. It does make sense, but understand this too. I remember going back about a decade or so, Chip Kelly, when he was at the Philadelphia Eagles, and Marcus Mariota was coming out of college, and the Tennessee Titans had the number 1 overall pick. Chip Kelly was giving up, in Philadelphia, they had a do-the-deal type tag here where everybody just wanted Marcus Mariota no matter what happened. Like Fletcher Cox, who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer, multiple first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round picks, pick whoever you want off the football team. And the Tennessee Titans didn't do that and stuck with Mariota. Didn't work all that well. Now, this time around, let's just say it is the New York Giants in the 3 spot willing to come up and give you an extra first-round pick, and you slide back to 3. Let's just say quarterbacks go 1 and 2. You end up with Abdul Carter and extra first-round picks for the next years where maybe you weren't fully sold on Cam Ward, but at the same time, you're not sitting, Ben, in the 2, 3, or 4 spot where you're hoping for scraps to come down. You actually control the draft. And a healthy organization would say, you know what? I've scouted the next 2 years of quarterbacks. Here's who we think is going to be on the board. If we add Abdul Carter, let's just say at number 3, and get an extra first and a second for next year, we might be on the verge of doing something spectacular once we do actually find our guy. So it's an interesting spot the Titans are in for sure, but I think they do draft a quarterback.
We need more draft odds as well. Still just the first overall pick. Hour 2 up next. Welcome to hour number 3, our third and final on the first day of this new week. It is a Monday, live right here on the early line. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 1 more hour to go and plenty of hardwood handicaps coming your way. We will go around the NBA on this Monday night. The final week of the regular season at the high major level of men's college hoops in college basketball, and some conference tournament action continues into the quarterfinal round of the ASUN tourney on this Monday night as well. Handicaps, plenty of them, college basketball and NBA breakdowns aplenty in this third and final hour.
Not too far away from Selection Sunday, and away we go, which then means Major League Baseball into the Masters and a lot of good times. So we're right in that cusp of, what can happen here over the final couple games, as Ben says, in the high majors, but also some of those mid-majors and below are getting their tournaments underway. And these guys, their championships aren't cutting down the nets at the Final Four and having fun there. It's winning this week, and their reward is actually getting to go to the big dance. You're going to see a lot of emotion and a lot of fun and a lot of basketball teams, Ben, with 26, 27, 28, 29 victories, not going to the NCAA tournament because of what level of college basketball they play in, which certainly is tough, which means we must expand the tournament.
No, we certainly must not expand the tournament because it would never benefit the mid-major, as you understand, Commissioner Rightside. It would only allow terrible teams like Wake Forest without any quad one victories to get into the tournament and not actually benefit the mid-majors who have proven time and again they can compete at the highest level. Beware of the bid stealers during conference tournament week. If you get some upsets at the mid-major level, that's how teams that might be deserving of some mid-major conversation for an at-large berth get left out of the big dance. All of that will be a part of the conversation here in this third and final hour. But DRS, of course, it was Combine weekend in Indianapolis. And really, there wasn't a ton of big news for prospects that had great weekends and really moved things up the draft board. Nothing that really was all that impactful. Some guys performing well athletically to probably see their draft stock on the rise. Armand Membu, the big offensive lineman out of Missouri, man, he looked athletically gifted over the weekend. But outside of that, DRS, not much. Really, the conversation from this week in Indy was all the NFL teams being in one spot, and the conversations early in the offseason starting to flow, like the New York Giants. And what is their plan at quarterback this offseason? And who might it feature? Aaron Rodgers? Does that make sense to the people? We find out right now and Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, a simple question with simple answers that maybe lead to some debate. Should the New York Giants sign Aaron Rodgers? Yes or no? Most of the public, DRS, more than 59% of the public saying no. The Giants should not sign Aaron Rodgers this offseason. DRS, did you fade him?
Absolutely. It's actually, well, I faded the New York Giants by saying, no, they shouldn't, have Aaron Rodgers. But the public themselves, no, I'm with it. 59%. It should be way higher than that. And the only thought process is maybe the Giants organization forcing all of their front office executives, ticket counters, anything you got to say, you know what? Head over to the SportsGrid account here at SportsGrid and make sure you vote yes so we can change the public opinion at this point. Because we've talked about it to start this show. It doesn't make any sense. Even, understand this, Ben. If you say in a salary cap world, it's like, hey, well, I have a certain amount of pay. Let's just say Aaron Rodgers called the Giants up and goes, I made just about more money than any NFL player in the history of the sport, which is a fact. I'm willing to play for you for $1 million. Can you please sign me? I say, you know what? Can't do it. Say, well, wait, you can sign a quarterback for $1 million and pay all these guys. The Giants aren't in that position here. The Giants aren't in a position to win football games, ruining their draft stock and capital over the next 2 to 3 years at this point. So for me, I'm not doing it. You can't do it. You can't sign Aaron Rodgers.
I would agree, DRS. You have some cap space in there if you wanted to. I don't think it's worth it, although I don't believe Aaron Rodgers is going to play for a big contract, maybe a veteran minimum or something of a discounted deal. I also don't think the addition of Aaron Rodgers really changes New York's outlook all that much this offseason. Would a win total of 4.5 be 5.5? Great. Would I bet on Aaron Rodgers leading the G-Men to 6 or 7 wins? No. So there is no reason to then add him. He does not benefit your team. You should be focused on the future, a future that you ruined this offseason, having the 3rd overall pick and not the 1st. And you've got 2 lame duck head coaches and GMs combined with Joe Shane, the GM in the front office, Brian Daboll as your head coach. The focus is not on 2025, sadly, for Giants fans. It's on 2026 and beyond. You don't need to win this year. And that's a sad reality to sit with early in March, understanding that 2025 could be a catastrophe in terms of your win-loss record this upcoming NFL campaign. The addition of Aaron Rodgers does not benefit that. The only thing it adds is more eyeballs and notoriety. Because although we understand Aaron Rodgers is not what he once was, there will still be that in the back of our mind, and Aaron Rodgers in front of a microphone that will bring the attention and expect maybe bigger things than he can guarantee. There is no reason to sign Aaron Rodgers whatsoever if you are the Giants this offseason.
Exactly. And understand the division you're in the game of football. We talked about the AFC West. It's like, hey, Vegas Raiders, who are you going to sign here? Everybody else has who they think is going to be their franchise quarterback. Look at the NFC East. Same thing. Washington, franchise guy. Eagles, franchise guy. Dak Prescott, say what you want, 30 to 31 years old, $90 million. That's their franchise guy. They know exactly who they're going into the season with, and over the next 5 to 6 seasons, that's who they're going to battle. You sign a guy like Aaron Rodgers, hey, great, he's our guy next year, and what about the year after that and down the line? You saw that number, 3 wins for the New York Giants. Your goal next year should be 3 wins for the New York Giants. Heck, even if you draft a quarterback and trade up, make it 3 so you can get better draft picks. But also, as I say that, if the Giants are going to have to trade up from 3 to 1 and then win 3 games next year, you know what they're going to do? Same thing the Carolina Panthers did. Wait a second. We traded up for a quarterback who might be able to find his legs, but you were so bad, you didn't even get to capitalize on that bad season and get another high draft pick because you traded away to the Chicago Bears to get that said draft pick. Giants, don't make the mistake. You're so close. Right. Don't make the mistake. Tank it out.
Donnie, and there is a thought right now with the New York Giants odds to be the team selecting first overall, and some speculation leaving Indianapolis that maybe Joe Schoen does push all the chips into the middle of the table. It makes that move to get up to number 1 in the draft board, a move that could have happened had they just lost as a touchdown underdog against the Colts team that actually needed a win to stay in playoff consideration, but that revisionist history. I do not think it would be wise to make that move. And after the week in Indianapolis, where there were 3 teams entering the week at 200 to 1, the longest number to win a Super Bowl this upcoming season, only 2 remain. The 2 teams that missed out perhaps on Matthew Stafford, the Giants and the Raiders, both at 200 to 1 to win Super Bowl 60, the longest odds around the NFL. That is your outlook. And frankly, that needs to be your understanding. But I don't think Shane and Dayball are just going to sit there and take it, which makes this all very interesting, kind of a different recipe this season for the G-Men.
It does. And understand this. If Dayball wasn't the coach and Shane wasn't the general manager, there would be no Aaron Rodgers talk. There would be no let's sign Sam Darnold talk. There would be like, you know what? I'm going to make my mark on this franchise. The franchise starts now. We're going to find our young quarterback. We're going to get our franchise guy, and we're going to live with that here. That's the issue that you have. When you're bringing back coaches and general managers and people, it's human nature to go into survival mode just for yourself. That's what's happening with the New York Giants.
Tony, there's a good chance that even if the Giants move up the board or end up with a quarterback at 3rd overall, that quarterback will be coached by a new head man under the guidance of a new GM entering 2026 as well.